I am with none other than the great Maya Wiley. She is the CEO of the Leadership Conference on Civil Rights and Human Rights. And in this moment, there's been a dismantling of almost every freedom that we gained in the 60s. And, before we got on the call on the Zoom, Maya was like, "Hey, I'm mad." I'm like, "I am too." It's like you don't know. You just keep stuffing it down. Where does it go, Maya? I mean, Louisiana versus Calais, freedom of the press is gone. The ballroom, spending our tax dollars on a ballroom that we didn't ask for, a war that we didn't ask for. I mean, what are we supposed to do with this? How do we keep stuffing this down?
So, Rach, April, it's so good to be with you. I really appreciate you and your voice, and I'm grateful to be here. Let me just say this. First of all, it isn't just what we won in the 1960s, it's what we fought a civil war to win. So let's just
Yes.
remember, this is about the Civil War amendments to the United States Constitution, which was what really created our multiracial democracy. It's what really started, but took us another 100 years of fight to implement those amendments to US Constitution. So we have been fighting for generations for this country to live up to its ideals. And that's what the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights, which was founded in 1950 as an integral part of the civil rights movement, nation's oldest and largest civil rights coalition. The reason I say that is because there are two things that are important for everyone to understand. One is this is not over. We
Mm.
have not lost it all. Is it bad? Yes. Should we be outraged? Yes. And frankly, all of us should be outraged. This isn't just whether you're Black or Latino or Asian American, Native American. If you're white, you should be outraged. Because really what this is about is taking away the thing we're about to celebrate on our 250th anniversary of the founding of this country, which is that it has taken us 250 years to get to a place where we're perfecting this union, except this is an administration that is working actively to dismantle it because it doesn't want to fund healthcare, because it thinks that our children in schools should be unprotected from bullying, because it actually thinks that we should privatize education, because all these things that are unpopular with people across the political spectrum. And the only way you can get away with that is by taking away civil rights. But they're not gone. And I think the way to think about this is what we do is we don't stuff anything down. We bring it up, out, use our voices, be loud, say we have an independent press for a reason, and it's to keep the government accountable to us.
That's
We
right.
have a court that is supposed to enforce the Constitution and do justice. And when it's not, we have the power to say court reform. And when it comes to elections, as much as they're trying to draw unfair maps, steal our power, the reality is we still have power. And if we remember that our forebears, the folks that fought to end slavery, the folks that fought for the 14th Amendment of the US Constitution, said equal protection under the
Under
law,
the law.
for the folks that fought for the abolition of slavery, which was the 15th Amendment, and for the right to vote, which took another 100 years of fighting to get, that these things are things that we still have the power to vote about, and certainly to use our power to say, we won this when you all didn't even let us vote.
Come on.
We won this when we have no money. We won this when we had to fight to get press attention to the issues. We won
Yeah.
this when we had so much less than we have now. So what we have to remember is we have power when we use it. We have power when we come together, and this is not over.
I am so glad that we are talking because you have made me feel so much better because this has been so oppressive on my spirit. I was born just 9 months before Dr. King was assassinated. And I was regaled by my parents about the segregated South, segregation. And to hear this and you taking it back not to just Jim Crow, but you going back to roots because I've been saying they want us back in change. This is roots, and you hit it. The Civil War. This is roots. When I say roots, Alex Haley's groundbreaking book and movie Roots. If you don't know about it, not Google it, Chat GPT it. And when you say we the people who are still forming a more perfect union. We're going through growing pains. It's not over. You say it's bad, but it's not over. That's what I needed to hear. As we've got Tennessee, Alabama, and Louisiana going through consternations. You've got these black districts that could wind up being Republican. In Tennessee, Selma, in the Black Belt, the richness of the soil where we had Bloody Sunday and where the four little girls were bombed, the history of that. And then in Memphis, a stronghold of black folks could go Republican. But you're saying it's not over.
It's not over. And let's go back to here's why. And look, what the Supreme Court just did was supremely unjust. And it was
Supremely.
a yet another example in a long line of examples where the Supreme Court says we will ignore our own rulings. We will ignore our own case law. We will ignore the way we have been interpreting not just the Constitution, but these critical amendments. And we will ignore Congress because Congress said in the Voting Rights Act that, look, you can't have the effect of taking away power from communities of color, Black, Latino, Asian American, Native American, to have a fair opportunity to be represented by people who will actually take their needs, problems, and the solutions they need into account. And the way they did that, and this again, this is decades, this isn't like yesterday, this is decades of how this has been interpreted and utilized and how we got for the first time in the history of this country, the Congressional Black Caucus the size that it is, and a Hispanic caucus of the size it is, which isn't even complete representation, but it's better than we have ever had, including after the passage of the 14th Amendment of the United States. But the way we did that is to say, you gotta be real. You gotta be practical. You gotta look at the whole circumstances. If people who are white are all generally voting in one direction, and people who are Black or Latino are all generally voting in another direction, it is not fair representation and are not agreeing. We have to be able to have all those viewpoints represented in our Congress, in our state houses, on our school boards, in our city councils. Remember, this isn't only about federal. This is about states
State and local.
and local.
Yes.
This is about all of our daily needs, all of our bread and butter. It's about our kids. But that's a very simple proposition, right? Which is say, yeah, it ain't fair if all these different viewpoints, that's what democracy is for. Democracy is for identifying needs, debating solutions, and figuring out how to move us forward. But if only one or two perspectives are represented, if not all the experiences that we're experiencing are not represented, then we have not done what the goal of the Civil War was to do, which is to say, all of this matters, all of us matter, and we all have to have a voice, and we all have to have power in deciding who leads us. So the reason I'm saying it isn't over is because this is where the Supreme Court said, no, we're going to allow the concentration of power in one ideology or one group, one party. So if a party is dominant, as long as you're saying it's partisan, you can do it. But pretending that they're still having civil rights. But here's the point. The Constitution is still the Constitution. The process is still the process. And what they're really trying to do is scare us away from using the power we have. They want us to fear protesting, even though we do it peacefully.
Right.
Our civil
They want to
rights.
jail us and send us away.
They want to jail us even when we have federal law enforcement in the form of ICE out here killing people. By the way, killing people who are white for
That's
simply
right.
exercising
Alex
their rights of
Preddy
dissent. Alex
and
Preddy,
Good, Renee Good. Yes,
Renee
those
Good.
are two examples. Yes.
And doing what? They're using their constitutional right
peacefully protesting.
peacefully and with dissent. And they want to come for the organizations and groups that are doing voter education, that are, so it's, I don't want to pretend to anyone that this isn't a full-on attack, but I also want us to recognize why. It is because in Louisiana, Black people are a third of the state. And that population has grown between census cycles. That's part of
Yeah.
why we're seeing unfair maps. They're trying to weaken power that we have. The same is true in
And it's
Louisiana.
about two Black districts in Louisiana that they don't want. And you've got two people now, two congressional leaders, Troy Carter and Cleo Fields, who could lose a seat. And also in Alabama, in the Black Belt, Terry Sewell
Yeah.
is in trouble. These are members of the Congressional Black Caucus. And we want to be clear that all members of the Congressional Black Caucus are not in solidly Black districts. They're not.
That's right.
But the ones who are in solidly Black districts are in trouble.
And we have to understand why they are solidly Black, because they are in places
Redlining.
where,
Let's go redlining.
well, it starts with discrimination to begin with. And this is the
Redlining.
point. The reason, and then the question becomes where and how people, we vote for different things. We have to have an opportunity to vote for the things we want to vote about. And that people have different viewpoints is democracy. We don't have to all have the same viewpoint, but you can't try to cheat. So really, this is about abuse of power. But my point is, our numbers, if we recognize that showing up and saying, we are going to organize our power to say, you are not representing us if you are trying to break our power and voice. We have allies we can build in communities that are white, because as we know, what are we all caring about that we agree on? Whether you're Democrat or Republican, people are very upset about the fact that it's getting more expensive and harder to see a doctor when you're sick, because we have people who have supported gutting Medicaid, refusing to expand it. We now have decisions made like you can't get an FDA approved pill to decide about your own reproductive future in a safe and medically approved manner. I mean, these are things. Mifepristone. These are things that people actually care deeply about. Our schools, we've got kids who are being bullied, but there's no place to go now if the Department of Education is trying to unravel itself and not invest in the ability of our kids to figure out, why is our reading scores so low? This is one of the things they cut. They cut investment in figuring out how to get literacy rates up. But why? So they could give a tax break to people who earn hundreds of millions and billions of dollars. We have farmers in rural Georgia and other rural areas that are, in some
I've been
instances,
talking
committing
about these white
suicide.
farmers, and that's white farmers, not the Black farmers who are already behind the curve. The
That's
white farmers who voted for Trump,
right.
who are hurt. They are my test in this midterm election cycle. These were staunch people who he understands us. Well, that was first term that you believe that. Second term, your meat is going to Argentina. There's a funny thing now that your meat isn't going to Argentina. Your soy isn't going to China. You can't get fertilizer. You can't get diesel. I mean, it's a mess, and they're hurting.
It's a mess. And in some instances, even in Georgia, we saw votes crossing party lines because of the issues. We don't tell people who to vote for. My point is, the point are the problems we need to solve, and the point are the people who need to be engaged in understanding and demanding. But there's an opportunity for coalition building. That's always what the civil rights community has been about, is coalition building for the things that we need and that we agree on, even as we recognize we may have different ideologies and we certainly may vote in different directions. But the point is, if we when Black people fought for the right to vote,
yes,
we were opening up and making it fair for all people to vote.
Yes.
When we said you can't just rig maps, no one benefits from just sheer power trying to stay in power and not letting people, enable people to give people a pink slip if they're not doing their job and not being accountable to community. It's really that simple, but that's also our opportunity because Black folks, we need to understand that we have power when we show up and when we make demands. When we stay silent, they win. We aren't going to let them win.
So you're reminding me about the history, and this is one of the reasons why we need to know and have our history books. I mean, think about this. During the civil rights time, Black folks weren't allowed to get together like that. If they were seen getting together, they would go to jail. You know, they had to hide and talk. And that's what they're trying to break up our understanding. They're trying to break up our connections, the coalition building, but we're not having it. And for all intents and purposes, they don't like us talking about this, giving the information, holding accountable this administration is trying to take your freedoms. But here's and I just love the fact that you took it back to the Civil War. I kept saying they want to take us back to roots. You put it there. Maya Wiley, you're a bad sister. Now, here's where I'm going to go. If people are that upset, even though they're doing all this and maybe try to cancel an election for this moment or just reconfigure different things, and this is all Southern states, which was really the 1965 Voting Rights Act was for Southern states who were dealing with immoral and racist practices. These Southern states, whatever they do, the shenanigans, the hurt could be greater than what they do, and people could come out and vote blue and create a tsunami. Is that the case? Because it could all of this ill-gotten gaming that they're doing, it could be all overturned if people went and said, I'm not having this, and decide to vote the other way. Could that make a change?
Well, look, yeah, look, anything we do to say, because people should be fighting with their state legislators right now, saying, you're not doing your jobs if you're just trying to stay in
Mhm.
power, not giving people real choices. I mean, earn our votes. Don't try to steal them. I mean,
Mm.
it's that simple. Or make sure we can all participate. Stop trying to make it hard for us to get to the ballot. That's not fair. By the way, it hurts everybody. They're doing things that is making it harder for people who are elderly and people who are students to vote, people with disabilities to vote. Guess what? They live in every community. What I just said is in every community. And the fact that they're trying to get away with it by suggesting that Black people or Latinos or Native Americans or Asian Americans should not have power, should not have the ability to really have a voice is just a way to take power from everyone. But that point we can be raising in states right now. And people are mobilizing for it. Folks are showing up. Tennessee, Mississippi too. Let's not leave out Mississippi. But it's also what I like to call up South. We have to remember Missouri and St. Louis. We have to remember that there are districts in California that are also at issue. But my point is, it is a fight worth waging, and it's a fight worth continuing, whatever the outcome, because our history teaches us you don't win by cycles.
Mm.
You win by coalition building and not going away on any cycle. And to make it about what people need. That has always been our history, and it's going to be our future.
So right now, everything you said is absolutely correct, historically, common sense, but on every level. But here's the problem. If we're looking to government to save us, they're not holding hearings on these things. The Republicans are the ones that are pushing this. Democrats are trying to get hearings. They cannot hold hearings. Government oversight and reform is not holding hearings. They're holding roundtables. You can't subpoena somebody for a roundtable. And what kind of teeth does a roundtable have? Guys, your government is not working for you. I mean, they're playing this game and they're not allowing you to challenge it.
It's even worse than that. They're wasting our time by not dealing with our problems. I mean, we've got a member organization, the Southern Poverty Law Center,
Yes.
long-standing civil rights organization fighting hate groups and extremist violence,
Yes.
working to break the back of the Ku Klux Klan after they murdered and lynched a Black man in the 80s. They are actually supporting voter education in Southern states. They're supporting Get Out the Vote. They're supporting voting rights. They're supporting state legislators being accountable to all communities in their states. So what is happening now? We're seeing the resources and power of the federal government not going after corruption, not going after sex trafficking, not going after all the things that are about keeping us actually safe, but they're now weaponizing it against anybody they consider an enemy. So the administration and Todd Blanche's interim attorney general, who just worked to pardon more extremists who mounted violence at the Capitol to prevent our votes from being certified in 2020, January 6, 2021, is now going after the group that has worked to fight hate and extremism.
Yeah.
Why? So here's the point. This is a waste of our time when everyone is saying, my gas costs are too high. I can't pay my mortgage. I don't have insurance for this climate change that y'all are saying isn't real, and may lose my home because I can't afford the homeowner's insurance. We have folks who are trying to understand what they're supposed to do with healthcare costs that are making them decide between paying for housing, paying their rent, or keeping health insurance. This is what people want solved, even if we disagree about how to solve it. But that's not even what they're talking about. They're just talking about coming for the ways in which people get voice and the organizers that support the work. So this is the point. This is the opportunity. To your point, what is happening now around this? Shadow hearings, town halls.
Yeah.
When government doesn't work for us, we the people form our own ways of making our voices heard, of pulling ourselves together, and of figuring out what we can collectively demand, and talking to the legislators who will listen. And that's what's happening now.
Maya, my last two questions of you, and thank you so much for your time. One, you're working with our publisher of the Contrarian, Norm Eisen. You guys are litigious. I love it. You will go to court and say, look, and I love it. Tell me what's happening there. And then two, what states are you most concerned about after a week after this Louisiana versus Calais Supreme Court decision, 6-3? You guys know who was the six and you know who was the three.
Yeah. Well, first of all, let me just say, as a coalition, it is our member organizations that are doing the litigation, Legal
Mhm.
Defense Fund, ACLU, Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law. You are correct. There is a whole group of litigators in the civil rights community, and I just named some of them, who are showing up and starting to mount their legal strategies. That's not going to stop. And they're also focused on the states we need to focus on, as is the mobilization, the voter education, the empowerment. And those states, and I think many people are reading it in the news cycle. We got to worry about Florida. We got to worry about Louisiana. We've got to worry about Alabama. We've got to worry about Mississippi. We've got to some shenanigans in Tennessee. Like,
Yes.
all of these are critically important. And then we have to remember North Carolina, Georgia. Gee, what are the states? We went back to the Civil War. I think we still can win it. I still think we can win this thing we call it. But I also say this, we actually think about every state where we have a large number of people of color, because that's where the threats mount. Because again, where we have a lot of people of color is where they try to steal power.
And people don't realize that the Southeast is a high contingent of Black folks. That's it.
More than half of the Black population in the United States lives in these southern states. And that is why there's such effort there. And
Southern
that is why
Republican states.
Southern,
Republican.
but again, not Republican because they are not purple.
Mm.
Republican because they're shenanigans. Because this
Mm.
is why we still need a Voting Rights Act. This is why we need a Freedom to Vote Act. This is why we need legislation that says there should just be a way that our elections are free and fair for everyone, and that we have real mechanisms for preventing discrimination, because they use race as a wedge to tell white folks, don't worry about your problems. Those people are your problems. And what we say as a civil rights community is, we're all in this together. We rise or fall together. We have a democracy together, or we have no democracy at all. And we
Yeah.
know we're going to have a democracy because we have one, because we have always fought for one.
Maya Wiley. She is the CEO of the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights. Thank you so much for making me believe this is bad, but it's not over. It's not over. You've given me hope. Thank you.
And
And
let
I'm
me just say this, April, because I should have. For anyone who wants to sign up for more information, please go to civilrights.org. Civilrights.org. But thank you, April, because we need your voice out here, and we're so grateful for you.
Thank you. It's not over, guys. Thank you, Maya.
Thank you.